A half Nelson is not a desirable position to find yourself in. It's the final hold the wrestler uses before the pin, his victory, and the end of the bout. The losing fighter is trapped in one of sport's most hopeless circumstances. Like two wrestlers, social studies teacher Dan Dunne is trapped by his drug addiction's efforts to pin him. He's helpless, on the verge of giving up, and you, the viewer, are trapped alongside him. The story that Dan Dunne teaches is the struggle of opposites, specifically during the civil rights era. But the human experience is a tale of internal individual conflict, just as much as it is the external wars, slavery, and oppression that compose mankind's long and violent history. And Mr. Dunne is not excused from that battle. He's living the very subject that he teaches. He traps himself by characterizing his drug addiction into a distinct literary conflict, a tale of opposing forces. He tries to fight society, another man, and himself to find healing. There is a struggle within him between the majority, his addiction, and the minority, his last shred of humanity. As a teacher and a coach, Dunne searches for a problem in society and tries to be the solution. He guides kids from a rough part of town going through a tough stage of life, particularly his student Dre. But he is not exactly a role model, and his habit catches up with him. Removed from teaching, rejected from coaching, he's restricted from being the hero he wants to be and pigeonholed by the world he wants to fix into a position of helplessness. Dunne looks for affirmation and healing by fighting another man in order to stand up for what's right. He squares up with Dre's friend Frank, ready to go blow for blow. However, the attempt to remove the speck out of his brother's eye quickly becomes apparent to him as a manufactured struggle.
Because I'm supposed to do something, right? But what am I supposed to do?
He yearns to do something good, to stand up for justice, but the road that he picks is a dead end. Frank truly cares for Dre. It just looks very different. There is no freedom found by waging war with another man. In an effort to fight himself, Dan Dunne does everything that society says is healthy and quote-unquote right, to be sober, normal, and mostly sane. He exercises, cleans, and attempts to pursue the things that he's good at and that once made him happy. He cares for his cat and spends time with his family, all in a desperate attempt to slip the wrist over his neck and break free. But each attempt is met with yet another setback. The cat dies. He feels like an outcast among his family, and a rough encounter with a lover leads him to seek instant comfort instead of painful healing. None of these attempts to bottle up his habit into such conflicts pull Dunne out of his hole. Life tightens its grip and inches him closer and closer to the pen. For the viewer, this trapped feeling is palpable throughout the movie. The 16mm film used results in very tight framing, with frequent close-ups of Gosling that trap you right in front of him. Dan Dunne selfishly pushes away those who love him, leaving him alone in the shot more often than he shares it. But the times when he shares the frame are the times he is almost back in touch with his humanity. Unfortunately, these human moments precede another setback, disaster, and relapse. The most striking visual trap is the frame within a frame shot interspersed throughout. The framing locks Dunne in a visual cell, leaving him completely isolated. A barrier is placed between him and the people whom he cares about. These shots play along with his darkest days. Psychologically, the movie conditions the audience to feel trapped from its title alone. Half Nelson. I was the subject of many during my wrestling seasons. It's a sweaty, demoralizing, unpleasant position, and is nearly inescapable. To overcome it, the wrestler must use brute strength and willpower to break the hold, flip his opponent, or wait for the other to make a mistake. And in the case of Mr. Dunne, life isn't making mistakes. Dan Dunne searches for healing through individual conflicts, but his addiction is really the face of a wrestler, made up of society, other people, and Dan Dunne himself, choking him out and slowly twisting him into the final pin. The moment he buys his poison from the very person he was trying to help, when he buys drugs from Dre, the teacher, the coach, the wrestler finally hits rock bottom. Life gets the pin. His shoulders are on the mat. All that's left is for the count to end. But civil rights were not won by Martin Luther King alone. They were won through the collective effort of many individuals struggling for change, fighting through setbacks, and uniting together for one dream: liberty and justice for all. In 1964, all that work came to fruition when a landmark piece of legislation was signed. There were still issues lying ahead. There are still issues today. And that's life. But a major battle was won. Every choice made by Dunne in the story, and every decision made on set by the crew, places the audience in his shoes. The case of Dan Dunne is not a unique one. And while we may not all be crack-addicted teachers fighting society, every single person is enduring this human experience, this life, with all its traps, failures, and pins. But life is about more than just the Nelsons. To really live is to stand back up and keep on going, and it's easier to do that with someone to back you up for the next fight. Dre is the ally who Dan Dunne needs. Even though he never asks for help, she sees that in his eyes. He's begging. He lacks the strength to escape the hold alone. The minority of humanity left is nearly crushed, but something good finally stays in his life. Dre, his polar opposite in every regard, is there to help him roll back over, stand back up, and begin to slip the Nelson. So Dan Dunne, a very broken man, tries to get better one more time. He shaves and shows his true self to the world. And that little act, with Dre's help, gives him a fraction of control back over his opponent. We end on a wide, human, shared shot between the wrestler and the little girl who made him get back up. He gets a breath of fresh air and is ready for another round. Okay, so I just want to tell y'all a story real quick about when I was wrestling. I didn't spend long as a wrestler. I did not like it very much. Out of the 24 or so wrestling matches I was in, I won exactly one. I was wrestling this guy. He was like a year older. He was a little better. And he got me in the half Nelson, which I was very used to at that point. And he started flipping me over to pin me. But as he did so, his armpit, fully suctioned over my nose and mouth. And when I breathed in, it was the most foul-smelling thing I had ever experienced. And I genuinely thought in that moment, I'm about to choke to death. And just pure adrenaline kicked in. And I went all animal strength on him. I ripped the hold apart, and I somehow got around, got the half Nelson of my own, and I somehow got the pin. And I won that match. And that is the only wrestling match that I'd ever won. And it's all because this dude just didn't put deodorant on that day.